Good afternoon, students. So today here I am with English class number 19, and in the last class we have concluded the essay of everything that I wanted to know I learned in the forest, that is Vandana Shiva's article or an essay that she wrote for S magazine. So in the last class we have discussed about the insights of what Rabindranath Tagore had already thought of when Vandana Shiva started Earth University or something. So in the last class of mine we have discussed very well about those particular things by giving or highlighting about a specific genre called Tapovan. Hope you remember that. So with all these things I have just discussed this essay as in when with the different subheadings that she actually devised this essay, and now today I am here with the discussion on the question and answers related to the essay that we have completed from the past 4 or 5 classes. Okay, so as I have already told you that there is no plot or a theme or a story or something in this essay. It is something which is very descriptive type of essay, and hence you should be very careful here in order to understand this factual details that are given in the text. So that is why this book or the essay becomes very apt in understanding or in getting to know the answers related to the question. Okay, so let us discuss. Let's start working on the comprehension 1. Okay, so you can just either make a note of writing down the answers there only, or if you know the answers you can mark it or whatsoever. And as I have told you that comprehension 2 and 3 will be supplied to you, don't worry about that. Okay, so let us see the one word or one sentence or a phrase questions. Comprehension 1 on page 29 of your textbook. Trace the childhood experiences that shaped the author's interest in ecology. Trace the childhood experiences that shaped Vandana Shiva's interest towards ecology. What was his father? He was a forest conservator, isn't it? Mother was a farmer, isn't it? So you can just take that particular example. During her childhood days only, the father was a conservator, the mother was a farmer. So in that way, she actually learned more about Himalayan system because of that partition that she talks to us about. Okay, so you can just take those examples and then write down your answer for that question, because her childhood was because of her parents. That is why she started or she had an interest in ecology. How does the scarcity of water, fodder and fuel affect the women? How did the scarcity of water, fodder and fuel affect the women? Because it meant longer walks for them. That is, their work became double, isn't it? So they started walking for a long distance in order to get the food or fodder or fuel, isn't it? Why? Because of the deforestation that was happening in the Himalayan region. Okay, so it meant extra work. You can use that phrase, extra work or longer walks, anything will do. What features of the Chipko movement does the author highlight? Chipko movement, that is, women led themselves hugging the trees in order to save them from being cut. So these are the things that she actually thought. Then the real value of the forest for women was the springs and streams. Option C could be your answer. Okay, so B is also there. Of course, yes, it was a source of basic needs, but it was mainly for men, isn't it? So you should be thinking of what it was meant for the women of that region. It was springs and streams for them. Exactly the names of your textbooks. Springs is here, streams is your workbook, isn't it? Okay. Now, question number 4. List the activities that Vandana Shiva undertook after her involvement with Chipko movement. What exactly she started doing it once she started herself with volunteered, isn't it? She herself became a volunteer. Page number 23. That is, she started making padayatras, documenting the deforestation, the work of the forest activities and spreading the message of Chipko. Page number 23, you have a paragraph. So I decided to become a volunteer. So what she started doing? She started doing padayatras. She started documenting the recording or documenting the deforestation, the work of the forest activists, and spreading the message of Chipko. Then the conservation of biodiversity in agriculture leads to. The conservation of biodiversity in agriculture leads to more quality food and higher nutrition, increase in quantity of food production, developing variety of food grains. So you have three options there and you got to select any one which is the best suitable option. So it will be option C, that is more quality food and higher nutrition. Then, why is it important to change the fossil fuel and chemical based monoculture? Why is it important to change the fossil fuel and chemical based monoculture? In order to have plenty of species, or in order to grow a plenty of food grains or whatsoever. Then, what prompted the UN to initiate a discussion on the rights of Mother Earth? What prompted UN? So you will find the answer somewhere here. Harmony with nature, isn't it? The harmony with nature. Then the conference organized by UN General Assembly aimed at transforming the domination of the people over nature, men over women, rich over poor, all of the above, isn't it? So I had discussed it very clearly during the discussion of the essay, isn't it? So it is nothing but all of the above. Then what according to the author is eco-apartheid? Why it is necessary to end this? Eco-apartheid, we were discussing about terra nullius, no, what is that name? Cormac Cullinan, isn't it? Eco-apartheid. Apartheid in South Africa put behind us. Today we need to overcome the wider and deeper apartheid, co-apartheid based on illusion, separateness of humans from nature. That is the separateness of human minds in the nature. So that made them to think of that. Alright, then which event in human history marked the beginning of the separation of humans from nature? What do you think? Which event in human history marked the beginning of the separation of the humans from nature? Three things that we usually discuss about environment: pollution, industrial revolution, global warming these days. So answer to this question is industrial revolution. So industrial revolution in human history marked the beginning of the separation of the human beings from the nature. How do Caroline Merchant and Francis Bacon differ in their ways? What is the difference between what Francis Bacon says and what Caroline Merchant says? So you have it in the discussion when I discussed about how these two men give their two different opinions about the biodiversity, unity and all those stuff. So you can just find the answer there. Then what ideas of Tagore inspired the author to start the Earth University? That is, what ideas of author started the Earth University inspired India's national poet. Tagore started learning in Shantiniketan, where the forest school, isn't it? So the very idea of learning through nature, that opted the Vandana Shiva, that is the author of the chapter, to start something that is called as Earth University. How are unity and diversity related to each other? Unity means what? One. Diversity means what? Different, isn't it? So when you talk about one particular thing about unity in diversity, how is it been brought by Vandana Shiva is something that you need to understand. Okay, so there are 14 questions given here, but still I tell you that questions can be asked from any part of the text. You see to it that you have a thorough reading of the text. Okay, so you should be very specific here to give the answer as it is given from the text, isn't it? So you cannot just beat around the bush in order to answer these questions, because everything is descriptive here and you got to definitely take the source from the textbook. Okay, so Comprehension 1 is done, and Comprehension 2, how did the women led by Bachani Devi put up resistance to felling of trees? Do you think it was effective? So you know the answer to this. isn't it? So Bachni Devi, isn't it? Lady in the Himalayan region, the first lady, isn't it, who led resistance against her own husband. So when she talks to us about what exactly Chipko movement was, she gives this reason there, isn't it? So you can just take the answers or the points from that particular instance of the essay and write your answer. Then, why is it important to promote biodiversity intensive farming? How did the author achieve it? Remember, I had given you an assignment. Still, most of you have not submitted it to me about the monoculture or intensive farming or something. That is the reason that I had given you that assignment. Probably you can get the ideas from that assignment to answer this question. Why it is important to promote biodiversity intensive farming? How did the author achieve it? So you can talk about what? Navadanya farm. So that particular thing, and then you will have to answer. Okay. The third question, rights of nature means the right of people to use nature, duty of human beings to conserve nature, preserving nature for self-protection. So you have to answer this question in three different ways. How rights of nature means right for the people to make use of the nature, how they can make use of it. At the same time, what is the duty of human beings to conserve nature and preserving the nature for self-protection. Okay, so you have to answer these questions in that way. I'll give you the notes for that. What does the concept of Earth University convey? How is it different from that of the other universities? So this is the last part of the lesson that we have discussed, or an essay that we had discussed. Yesterday I discussed about it. So you have to talk here about Earth, and where Earth is being centered, or Earth University was an inspiration because of the Rabindranath Tagore's views in the year 1920 itself. So what Tapovana started doing and how Vandana Shiva got inspired. So you have to say that Earth University is a unique way of learning the duties of the nature, being in the nature itself. So here what you need to highlight is that you need to highlight nature as Mother Earth. Okay. So next one, we have something on Comprehension 3. So Comprehension 3, as I said, it will be asked for 6-mark question or something. A question may come from any part of the text, but see to it that, or get to have an idea about how usually the questions would be asked. Tagore sees unity with nature as the highest stage of human evolution. This is a line that has been taken by himself, that is Tagore, who said that Tagore sees unity in nature as the highest stage of human evolution. Do you think consumerism and accumulation of wealth come in the way of realizing Tagore's vision of human evolution? Definitely, right? So that is the, how does a man think? The man definitely keeps on thinking on consuming nature or accumulating the profits. So how does it come in a way in order to stop the human evolution? So you can just think of these ideas in your mind and you can answer this question. Then, the conservation of biodiversity is the answer to the food and nutrition crisis. The conservation of biodiversity. You need to conserve, you need to adopt that. So how does, if you do this, how does this definitely help you in order to have something that is called as the food nutrition crisis that can be avoided in India. So that is why I had given you that assignment. So that assignment holds good for all these two questions that I have been discussing so far. So you have your own view of how one can conserve the biodiversity, which will result in something answer to the food and nutrition crisis that we normally have in the underdeveloped or developing countries. Okay, so one should give importance to biodiversity form of cultivation. Getting? So you can just have these things in your mind and take the evidences from the text, and then you will have to answer it. Right? Then, conservation of diversity is crucial for the sustenance of both nature and human society. So we were discussing about ecological imbalance. or ecological imbalance will lead to either harm or good. In the similar way, if you follow something that is called as ecological balance, then it will definitely work for the sustenance of both nature as well as human beings. So we have discussed that thing, so I'll just bring it to you, or I'll just give you the notes on that. Then, in the light of this essay, how can one synthesize the wisdom of the past with the modern knowledge system? Okay. In the light of this essay, how can one, that is being readers, can you synthesize your intelligence of the past with the modern knowledge system? How can you synthesize? Okay, how can you synthesize your importance in learning about what all the things that you have learned? So what you need to understand in this question is that you should be knowing about the different subheadings that she has taken, Vandana Shiva has taken. Okay, what nature teaches us. Okay, the nature becomes the teacher. Okay, then ecological imbalance, monoculture, all these things put together, how can you one synthesize in terms of understanding the sustainability for both man as well as the nature is brought in this essay. So ultimately what I would like to tell you here is that give your importance to the title of the essay and just go on with what exactly the things that Vandana Shiva wants to bring it to the notice. Okay, so she is not talking just only about India in this chapter or in this essay. She is talking to us something about the whole global. Even in the global scenario, the earth is being degraded, or the earth is being exploited by man for his own way of consumerism or accumulation of the wealth or something. So one day, definitely those days are not very far when you see that probably this type of a tree, we are already seeing that, isn't it? This type of a tree was an extinct. Isn't it? So in the similar way, you know the pros and cons of the nature. If you keep on degrading, destroying the nature, what may happen to the earth, or what may happen to the living creatures, where the supreme power being living on the earth is nothing but we human beings, isn't it? So with this background, with this discussions on, or with some inputs on how to answer these questions on both 1 comprehension 2 and comprehension 3, I wind up this session on this essay that she wrote for the S magazine or something. Hope you have understood. If you haven't understood, or if there is a clarity still to be needed in terms of understanding certain concepts, you will have to see that you will be taking all the clues from the text itself. Okay, so read the text thoroughly once again, or you can just replay these videos in order to whatever I have discussed so far, so that you can have a proper understanding of the essay. Okay, so thank you, and I shall meet you tomorrow with the next session, and probably in the next session we have some brief sketchings on the concept called affixes in English. So we will be doing something on the affix part of any word, and I will do it in the next class. Thank you.